have you ever felt like you're living multiple different lives or versions of yourself? Well, our identity is complex, pieced together through our experience, social interactions, and perception of ourselves within different communities. But we're going to start with a bit of Hong Kong geography. So can you raise your hands if you live in Tsing? Yeah, I know you all because you all live with me. Can you raise your hands if you've never been to Tsing? Okay, a few. And raise your hands if you've attended the Happy Valley Racecourse event. Again, we go every week. So it's 19 kilometers or a 23-minute drive via Route 3 from Tsing Halls of Residence to Happy Valley Racecourse, where I've spent a few Wednesday evenings. Why is this relevant, you ask? Well, these two contrasting communities represent how Hong Kong has challenged my sense of identity in surprising ways. So let us consider identity and how different communities can coexist, even if we're left confused at points. So those that know me know it's no surprise that I love to journal and look back and reflect on nostalgic memories. So as it approaches my final week here at HKDI, seems like the perfect opportunity to look back at the past 10 months and how Hong Kong has challenged my sense of identity in some surprising ways. So, I'm Phoebe. I'm an English language assistant here at HKDI. I'm from the fairly unremarkable South London borough of Sutton, and I went to school in the Surrey suburb of Epsom, and I graduated from Leeds University last year. I lived in a bit of a bubble, lots of parties, around people very similar to me, trips home to London to see my family, and European city breaks with friends I'd previously met on my year abroad in Germany. I'd never been to Asia, but I was keen to experience a whole new culture, though I had no idea what this would look like. And it was May last year when I was sat in Leeds University Library, stressing over my 12,000-word dissertation on refugee integration in Leeds, when I received an email from the British Council. You have a place confirmed at HKDI. Well, I was thrilled and proceeded to text my mum, BTW, moving to Hong Kong in August. Yeah, I don't think she was initially best pleased, and her words were, Phoebe, you should come home, get a job, and stop feeling the need to roam. Anyway, that didn't work out, because on August the 15th, I arrived in Hong Kong, luggageless, in a full-fleeced black tracksuit in Hong Kong's August. Yeah, that was just the beginning. So although I've always considered myself someone confident and outgoing, I'm comfortable with change and meeting new people, trying new things, I've never really taken the time to consider what defines my personal identity. But Hong Kong has taught me so much about myself, and even more so, how international opportunities have shaped my sense of self. But time is short, so I'm going to give you a debrief on how the first couple of months went. First things first, WAM buildings everywhere. Secondly, shortly after the WAM buildings, I'm ashamed to say that Pret-a-Manger and M&S caught my eye as home comforts. Before, the lovely welcoming staff at HKDI introduced me to my first Hong Kong dining experience, and we laughed about my inability to pick up chicken feet with chopsticks. And then there were the animals, exotic animals everywhere, like monkey and buffalo and bugs that love biting me, because we ended up in A&E because I got a bite sting that made my face very swollen. And then the extreme weather, Typhoon 1, Typhoon 2, and black rain in our first month. And I think we all got used to a 4-day working week. And then the transport. Transport for London could never. And the 16th of every month became my favorite day, Octopus Subsidy Day. So, despite a few ups and downs, I never really experienced culture shock as one might expect. I was welcomed by staff at HKDI in a British Council bubble and took everything else in my stride. It wasn't really until around mid-October when I really started to consider how adapting to Hong Kong life was impacting my personal identity. So I went to school in Epsom. Now, Epsom is home to the Epsom Racecourse and famous annual Derby Day event. I mention this because on October 20th, I decided to try out this Happy Valley Racecourse event. Now, despite being nearly 6,000 miles away from home, I stepped into a community that felt remarkably similar to the crowd at the Epsom Derby, and I was introduced to a whole new community of people, a bubble of expats. Now, after countless conversations that resembled London life, like finance and bars in Soho and travel stories, I left a few faces in shock when I said I would go the 19 kilometers, taking the 948 back to Tsing. Since this point, I've been navigating where I fit in between communities, but mainly how to make the most out of my time living in this fantastic city. So, whilst I've clung on to many aspects of my British culture and the comforts of expat life, I've also embraced elements of Hong Kong culture, and I've learned a lot from Cantonese culture, an impressive work ethic, but equally balanced approach to work and play. In this dense urban environment, people use their time and space efficiently, prioritizing exercise and health, and ultimately maximizing enjoy in life. In a conversation with a colleague here at HKDI, we were discussing similarities between Londoners and Hong Kongers. Any guesses? Well, we all like to complain, and this is true, but we challenge this stereotype, and after a longer conversation, we realize that this means people have passion and resilience. Despite heads bobbing on the MTR or necks reaching into mobile phone screens, there's an overriding sense of optimism. And living in Hong Kong has taught me to be ambitious, to continue learning, and to hold myself accountable in many ways. Equally, Hong Kong embraces an amazing international community, which adds another layer to this city's complexity. I've really learnt so much to be adaptable and open-minded to new cultures and ideas, and I hope as I speak with you today, you can think about how your unique set of experiences has shaped your sense of self. So, I now feel comfortable with the customs and the systems in Hong Kong. How many of you got to the front of the bus line, you've realized you've queued for 15 minutes for the wrong bus? It's always awkward and you have to go to the back. But I've mastered the 42A bus line from Mong Kok to Tsing Yi. And I know what I'm doing in the welcome in Mayfair Gardens, Tsing Yi, and in the classrooms here at HKDI. And also with the net teachers, European exchange students, and finance bros at Happy Valley. But whilst culture and identity are closely related, they are not the same thing. And when we examine the works of the Frankfurt School, we realize that when you define yourself in relation to the cultural other, your sense of self becomes blurred or maybe redefined. So for me, adapting to elements of Hong Kong culture has had a real impact on my personal identity. Now, this next section I like to call the emerging me. And after a period of reflection, I've defined my time here in Hong Kong as one of identity fluidity, where due to a mix of different cultural communities, my sense of self has become redefined and strengthened. And I can categorize this in three main aspects. First things first, to my surprise, integrating in Hong Kong life was not a stark cultural change, but rather a gradual process of listening, learning, and sharing. There's many times in Tsing Yi where I might feel out of place or stared at, but I found once comfortably integrated in the systems, people didn't really pay too much notice. Equally, I've learned to stay open-minded. I came to Hong Kong thinking that, similar to Londoners, Hong Kongers were busy and focused on their own lives. But small interactions have been really meaningful for my integration. For instance, just last week, I was doing my 1 hour 15 commute to work, and I had my AirPods in and my phone out, and I hadn't looked up since 8 a.m., just like all the other commuters, when I was coming up the escalators on the MTR. And I looked up, a businessman looked straight at me, quite alarmed when he realized he was walking the wrong way down the escalator because he was too much on his phone. And we both just had a moment where we just laughed at each other at 8:30 in the morning. And moments like these remind me not to judge people's exteriors and stay open-minded. Equally, I found people in Hong Kong to be very comfortable sharing their experiences and stories. There were a couple of Sundays in Central in September where I was surprised to see the number of people singing karaoke in cardboard boxes. But after speaking to a local friend, I discovered that these were domestic workers on their day off. This encouraged me to join voluntary groups, such as Impact HK and Help for Domestic Workers, which has introduced me to a whole new community of welcoming and kind people. And I'm grateful to have this experience across social groups. The second aspect to my emerging identity then is HKDI. As we're in this wonderful building, this place I can only describe as a bridge between communities. I've been overwhelmed by the generosity of staff here and feel like our experience as ELAs to be a true cultural exchange. Not only have students supported me through my poor attempt at learning Cantonese, but they've greatly enhanced my confidence and ability to immerse myself in new communities. Whilst I cannot lie, I have been surprised by differences in academic expectations or classroom etiquette and the number of students that say they need to sleep all weekend. But I've welcomed changes and hope we've played a small part in promoting well-being here at HKDI. It's really the students' enthusiasm and confidence that gives me the ability to go and find myself on solo, student-inspired adventures around Hong Kong, including a Cantonese spoken dance class in TSD, where I have no idea what's going on, or nail shop recommendations in Mongkok, where I feel equally as overwhelmed. I think something that epitomizes the students' persuasive abilities is that I came to Hong Kong thinking that I'd follow the traditional British backpacker route and find myself in Thailand. But after hearing the students' enthusiasm for places like Japan and Taiwan and South Korea, I now found myself open-minded to a whole new array of international opportunities elsewhere. And then finally, the third aspect to my emerging identity is the local versus expat experience. Now, living in Tsing, I feel like we have a unique experience, differing from many expats who don't venture far from the island. In fact, there's been times where I've gotten used to the question, why do you not live on the island? Or do you not want to live on the island? To which I usually respond, yeah, it's going to help my commute. But no, I'm grateful to experience all these communities that people living here for years haven't had the chance to experience. But I've had to stay open-minded. Hong Kong really is a place that encourages identity coexistence. Even without leaving your own city, you can experience so many environments. I mean, where else can you hike, shop, get lost in shopping malls and go to dance classes in TST and drink overpriced coffee and drink champagne in sophisticated art galleries where I definitely don't belong? Hong Kong has taught me to be completely adaptable, empathetic, and truly given me a richer sense of the world. Equally, I've become aware of the power we have to present ourselves in a certain way, and I resonate with the sociologist Goffman that argues within social interactions, we play a part to play, like actors on a stage, a performative role. Goffman says that when an individual plays a part, he implicitly requests his observers to take seriously the impression that is fostered before them. And my time in Hong Kong and experience within different communities really resonates with this argument that our identity is not prefixed or pre-existing, but it's something that's learned and transmitted through various social interactions. But equally, as humans, we're so adaptable to new environments, and I encourage you all today to go outside of your comfort zone. So, as time's coming to an end, mainly I feel so grateful for a wonderful year and for experiencing such a diverse array of communities. To my surprise, integrating Hong Kong life has been surprisingly smooth, but it's taught me so much about myself, and that really we're not so different after all. So the 19 kilometers for me between Tsing and Happy Valley is not just representative of a stark cultural change, but rather just two environments that have contributed to my emerging identity. I encourage you all here today to listen and learn from others, challenge assumptions, stay open-minded, and seek discomfort, because you never know what you might learn. I don't know what I'm doing next. Hopefully someone gets me a job. But I hope that I return to my own community in Sutton and that I can continue this exchange beyond this year and listen and learn from others. Thank you very much.